But still, that money, you've been making that money. You've been still paying that bill every month, every week.
Yes, you are.
Every week.
I was already thinking about like December. I'm like,
we're out for a month.
Why do we have to pay the full price?
How old are yours?
Mine, I have one in Mother's Day out who's almost 3.
Okay. So
and they just upped the price at the beginning of fall.
Yeah, so did ours. And we got 2 in daycare.
Gosh. Yeah, no, I don't think I could ever afford to do 2 at the same time.
I can't.
And I have basically a full-time job now, and it still feels like we're treading water. It's insane.
Same.
Yeah, I feel like we do fine and we live paycheck to paycheck.
Absolutely.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know why. Remember that happened last time with you?
I guess it feels like, because there was a whole episode where I sounded like my recording was coming from in the room. But maybe it's that one, because that's where I normally sit.
Maybe it's something with the mic. I'm number 3. Maybe I'm right in it.
Yeah, I think you're going to have to.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
I think you're going to just be
fine. It always hurts my neck anyway, so it's fine.
all up in that.
I guess we were recording, but we were talking about yoga, and I'm going to really try not to talk about yoga, and we'll explain why we're talking about yoga in a second, but, and maybe we'll cut this all out, probably we will, that it's the only thing that makes my neck is just so fucked up, and it's the only thing that makes my neck feel better ever. Like, it also makes me feel correct.
Like aligned?
Physically,
mentally, emotionally.
Okay.
Like peak self.
Yeah. I mean,
and it's hot yoga specifically. Regular doesn't get. But anyway, I've been going back, I don't know, a year and a half. I've always sort of practiced, but not really, not like this.
Right, and having a diligent practice, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way, though. I am, for my mental health, I started going to yoga back in a long time ago. Into the early 2000s, I started Bikram yoga, and that was the only thing for me that could make me feel as if I was somewhat balanced.
Had your shit together.
Yeah, and it was a hard month going into yoga and practicing in a heated room the first month. I thought I was dying. Literally and figuratively, I thought I was dying. It was 90 minutes of pure hell. And I didn't know what I was getting myself into. You can't talk. There was no water back in the day. You are sweating. The teacher's up on this monster pedestal. And at that time, I had fire engine red hair. And
I want to like to see that.
And there's been lots of faces of Lindsey. I had fire engine red hair, and I didn't have a towel, so I had to rent a studio towel that was white. Oh. And at that time, I couldn't wear contacts, so I had to wear glasses. But if I take my glasses off or my contacts out, I'm almost legally blind.
Yeah, me too.
So in a room, hot, 90 minutes, I have on boxer shorts and a sports bra, no water hydrating prior. I lay down every 5 minutes, and it looks like a massacre has happened on my mat because my hair. My hair is literally just bleeding down my body, red sweat running down my body, pooling at my feet. It literally looks like a massacre. And it could not have been more on point with that, because I was like, what the fuck am I doing in here?
What kept you going?
That's what I was going to ask. Why'd you keep going back?
I am a masochist.
Oh,
okay.
Me too.
I am a masochist,
yeah.
And I love pushing my body physically and mentally to a point of, can I do this? Mm-hmm. But I think that also is inherently a part of our childhood as well too. I was an athlete my whole life, softball and volleyball from the age of 5. Mm. I played traveling softball and traveling volleyball in high school and college. But yoga was different for me. I had been in and out of gyms, weight rooms, working out, athletic stuff. But I had never physically seen my body change. And that for me was a huge aha moment, but that also tapped into the control issue. Mm-hmm. And that is where I think is that very fine line in yoga and hot yoga is you go in with this very yang type perspective. Like in the heat, I'm burning calories, I'm in control, I'm pushing myself to the edge. But when you're in it though, the meditations base of it, whether you're taking a vinyasa class or a Hot 26 Hatha class, is, am I breathing? Am I also trying to clear my mind of this? Am I trying to push because I'm trying to push through something else? And that early on for me was the catalyst. After going through years of infertility and the pandemic and the tornado here, I finally had this aha moment of like, I am not just this. I'm not just a yoga teacher. I'm not just a yoga student. That I had used that for so long as my identity. And having to go through infertility and learning that I am in control of nothing, even to this day, nothing.
And being okay with it.
And trying to be okay with it. Trying to be okay. It's a mind fuck. And I am one of those parents that I have no filter. Sarah knows in my classes I'm dropping F-bomb. I'm like, oh.
That's probably why she goes.
Yeah. No,
and I am like, ooh. I have to remember sometimes. So I've lived here for 10 years and I'm like, this is still the South sometimes. And I have no filter. When talking about today, I was like, nah, I don't really have a filter. Like nothing's really off the table. I feel like there are so many things as women. We don't talk as mothers, as community. We don't talk about these things, but it's an obvious, palpable thing. And we all are like in this like weave of it. However, we don't address it. We don't talk about it. We don't say, are you okay? How are you doing? Are you good? Like, because I think there's that part of fear. We were never taught that. I was never taught that. I was not taught that. It was something I learned and I'm still learning. To ask myself and check in. Like today in class, I was like, we got to check in. Are we okay? Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Are we okay? And if the answer is no, that's fine too. But at least bringing that to the table and keep continually asking ourselves those things. Sorry, I'm like, you asked about yoga and I'm like, why? That was a huge why for me, and it just became like every day. It was like work. I had to have that. So I was not spinning or partying.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I mean, it's not like partying. I guess it could be an option, but it's not. But did I say that while we were recording? Just that it. Yeah, I think I did. Just that that's the one of the only thing that gives me balance. But I do think there needs to be a way that I can feel similarly without that one thing being in a really hot room, because like I just look out at the backyard all the time and go like, how do I get like a hot thing in here so I can do that?
You can honestly do it in your bathroom. You could get a heater in your bathroom, turn the shower on as hot as possible. You're creating humidity in your bathroom. Get a mat that's not slipping, put a heater in your bathroom, and you could do basic yoga poses, breath work. You see the new fad in like, fitness, if you will. It's like hot saunas, ice baths. These things have been happening for years and years and years, but now people are just starting to talk about it. Social media is bringing it to the forefront. These things have been happening for centuries, but now they're cool.
I won't keep going on about this, but thank you. They told me to lean in.
Literally.
It is an incredible yoga teacher like you are. I've always been like, I can work out at home. That's the way I like to do that until this whole thing started. And now it's a different thing. It's really incredible. It's like church. I mean, when you were talking just then, and a different kind of, whatever you think about church, I'm sure that some people, that's whatever.
No, I understand. It's a community.
It's a weighted word, Sarah.
Yeah. We are in the South.
Mosque, whatever it is. Whatever you...
Safe space.
Spiritual situation.
It's true.
It is.
You're absolutely
and
right.
And the way that you teach and speak about it is really special and means a lot. It's really cool. So
tell the people who we're talking to.
Yeah.
They're on this. They're just like, they can't wait to find out now.
Our guest today is a yoga instructor. Clearly, I'm not sure if we're going to move that around. She teaches hot yoga at Hot Yoga East Nashville. She's been in Nashville for 10 years in a queer same-sex marriage with 2 children alongside her yoga teachings. She is a holistic food and wellness coach. I didn't know that. She has a love for cooking, reading, thrifting, and music. And while she is an extrovert, definitely needs her alone time.
Preach.
Yes. Welcome, Lindsey Rhodes.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, ladies. I feel so grateful that you chose to ask me to chit chat
Very
about
excited.
life
Thank you for being here.
and things.
How is
Absolutely.
your week?
It has been okay. I'm trying to learn to not blurt out all the things that is happening in my life, because I do work with people in public, and people are like, how are you? And I'm always like, well, blah, blah, blah. It's been okay. My kids have not been feeling great.
That's right. Yes.
You know, this weather is
Yeah.
just tricky, and my daughter is just highly sensitive to everything.
Has she had a cough for 6 months, like everyone in my family?
The last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
In particular.
Yeah.
So it's been okay this week. Daycare was closed today, so that's always, a tricky balancing act, but they're home.
Well,
My
we
partner's home.
appreciate you still being here.
Yeah, Of course. wow.
Aside of that nice little...
It's a little treat. Is it some
Yeah.
time away with adults, females,
Yeah.
without children, or trying to organize a play date? So this is special for me too.
It's a big deal in those days.
It is, and my kids are, my daughter is almost 4. She's a little bit older than 3.5, and my son is almost 2.5.
Yeah, you're in the thick of it with both of them.
And it has been, the summer was okay. We had a pretty good summer. It's always tricky going into the fall, and I'm picking up more classes, and I'm working more because I don't have a choice financially. So, which I feel most families are probably in that boat. We had talked about that before. So, picking and choosing where I lay my energy down, or choose to pick it up as an extrovert or introvert. So, I'm okay.
Good. It just makes me mad sometimes that sitting down for a couple hours with some other humans can be like, oh, what a treat.
Right. Things that you never, ever in your
That's
entire
just
life.
supposed to be our right, I feel like.
Prior to children, it's like, oh yeah, let's meet for a drink, or let's go grab a cup of coffee after yoga, after work. Now it's like, I can't. I got to go pick up the kids. And then when you pick up your kids, then it's like dinner, bath,
The train.
bedtime. Yes. From my friends know, for me, literally 4:30 on.
It's done.
Yeah.
Like,
It's done.
It's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing it's literally the regimen. And my kids are the kids that have to be on the same regimen, because my daughter will be like, Mama, we're supposed to take a bath after this. Well, shit, you're right. I know, but just a second, please.
Go with the flow.
That's not how it works with my daughter. She's a double Pisces. Her sun and her moon are both in Pisces, so she's double water sign. And her rising is in Virgo, so she's got a little bit of OCD tendency. So she's a tricky one. She's what they call spicy or spirited.
Nice little test for the rest of your life. That sounds fun.
100%. One of my very best friends, Allison, she was like, we like to call that spirited. I'm like, okay, that's what we're going to go with.
It's the kind word.
I think my husband started. I think it's very similar to that, actually, and I didn't know that was a quality of theirs, but that does sound.
He's a Virgo?
Pisces.
Pisces, water,
Yeah.
dreamer.
How was your week, Sarah?
It was good. I told you that I started practicing, and I have every day. It's been like, I don't know, 4 days. Smiling first thing when I wake up, like literally when my eyes are still closed. Yeah, literally. And thinking of something I'm grateful for.
Oh, yeah. Gratefulness.
Yeah. Just one thing. And I don't know, I'm just desperate enough to do that. And it's been really helpful. Mainly in that in the mornings I can, like, let's say I'm putting my hand up to, like, above my heart on my chest. My rage can get, like, there really quickly, especially in the morning. And it's helped with that. It's helped dissipate that some and keep it down, like, in my belly. Just a little, like if he's not getting dressed or whatever it is, whatever thing. And that has been helpful for then the rest of the day. And, then I don't feel so much like shit at the end of the day. There's less guilt. So it's good. Pretty simple. Just 2 things.
I mean, that's a big
Nice.
deal.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a big deal to find the simple rituals that bring you a sense of calm, period. I mean, getting up and your child deciding they're not going to get dressed can send you into a rage overload in 2.2 seconds.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm just realizing, I mean, I guess these 2 things might be related. This morning I'm seeing him, he just he's been dressing himself more and more and more and more. And he was just dressing himself like it was no problem. And it's a lot about what he wants anyway.
Yeah.
And it's probably about my vibe. I mean, not,
But it's also about when we see them do things that we're like, oh, you can do that now?
Yeah.
Then we start in our minds going, oh, I can expect this of you now. And so then when they don't do it, you're like, but I know you can do it. And why are you choosing right now to not do it? Like, I know you're capable. And I feel like that's what will send me over the edge.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. And it's always when you're in a rush.
Yeah.
You're like, we're late. Oh my God, we're going to leave 5 minutes late. That means traffic's another 30 minutes late. Same. My daughter does the same thing. She's so smart.
Yeah.
And she'll look at me and I know she can get dressed because we lay clothes out the night before. Mm-hmm. And she'll like, I can do it. I'm like, okay. And I just sit there like grinding my teeth like, okay. And she's shaking out this shirt.
Oh my gosh.
And then putting it on backwards.
Yeah, you're watching him every
armhole.
moment do something wrong and you like want to just insert yourself and fix it.
And I'm like, Lindsay, she's going to teach herself. She's going to teach herself. It's going to be fine. And it is just, it's like, that is the hardest thing I think with parenting, which has been for me, is learning to parent myself and control my own emotions and don't project them on my kids.
Right.
Yeah.
Especially in the morning. And I'm a morning person. Like, I get up early to have coffee. I set the coffee maker, have coffee in the morning. I need some time before anybody wakes up. But if something throws a wrench in the whole system, I literally can go from 0 to 100 in 1 second.
Yeah.
And I'm learning that slowly, especially now that I have 2 with my daughter. I was pregnant when my daughter was an infant to a year. I did not have that skill. Mm-hmm. And I'm laughing now because before I was crying about it in the middle of like, what am I doing? And I just would lose it.
Yeah.
And then I would cry and then I would rage and then I would cry again. But now, people always say, oh, after you have your second one, you start learning the second one gets the parent that's, oh, I'm trying to control
more together.
this and keep it together. Oh, I know this.
Yeah.
I remember when Lily Moon did this. But
you did them so close together though.
That was not planned.
Right. But I'm saying, like, as far as you having that, mine are 8 years apart. So my perspective is I've had a lot.
You were a different person.
Well, I'm a totally different mom. Yeah.
You were a different person.
Mm-hmm. And so you were still very much the same person working on all the same things while doing it a second time. You know what I mean? As far as giving yourself some grace for not getting a chance to have as much perspective.
And that is, I mean, and not like I was having sex and getting pregnant. So ours came in a completely different avenue. It was a wild experience for us when we met Lily, my daughter. I don't know how far our questions or where we want to go with this. Like, I went through years of infertility, even prior to COVID.
How long had you guys been trying?
It's a wild process. Like, your first step is you get to choose a sperm donor. And that in itself is
overwhelming.
I can't even tell you. I mean, I got drunk. I'm not going to lie. It was like the day after New Year's Day in 2019, I believe, from 18 to 19. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to do this. Because at first I was like, how do you pick sperm? No one tells you about this. I had to literally lean on one of my best friends who has gone through it 2 years prior. I was like, what do I do? How do I do this?
Yeah, where do I start?
Where do we start? Mm-hmm. And she was amazing. And she was like, here are the different banks. Here are the different, I have different friends that have tried this sperm bank and this cryo bank and this one. And these are the good ones. So we sat down, Danny and I sat down and just kept pouring the drinks, like reading through everything, looking at everything. Because it's literally like a dating site. Mm-hmm. And I've never been on a dating site. You can get like the VIP profile. You can get the mid-grade. You can get the basic bitch. And
you got the basic bitch?
Nah, girl, we got the full meal deal. We paid extra. I was like, I want to know everything on this human, everything. If I'm going to choose this human to then donate sperm for our children, I want to know all the goods. So we know everything about this human. We got the Mac Daddy VIP. We know everything about this human, honestly, except his name. So
picture? Do you get picture?
Oh, yeah. We got pictures from... So they can do pictures from birth up until the day they donate. If you do a VIP upgraded package. So we did that for a day. We picked like top 3. And then we sat on it for a while. I was like, okay, this was too much for one day. Let's save these profiles. We revisited it. And, we were looking at it in an essence of like, we wanted someone who was smart, who was athletic, who was charming, who was well-rounded, athletic. Like, it's such a weird process.
How can you tell if they're charming?
We heard an interview. We have his voice recorded.
Cool.
I mean, when I tell you we know everything about this human, we know everything except his name. And we chose a donor who was an open donor who, if and when my son wants to reach out to him, he can. Because I just don't believe that that's fair. I mean, to each their own. Everyone has their own experience. Everyone has their own thoughts and beliefs around someone being a sperm donor. And every part of it's valid. I don't want to leave that out. But I firmly believe if and or when my son wants to explore that at the age of 18, he has that option. So we chose an open donor with multiple viable pregnancies, live pregnancies. We heard his voice. He was in an interview. We know his physical history, his genetic history, his family, maternal and paternal. We have all of that. We have photos. I'm sure there's something I'm missing, but we have everything on this human.
Social security number, bank statements.
He basically does have a social security number because you go by the number, the donor number. Also did not know there was a global registry of sperm donors. You have to be a member of this directory. And my best friend, Allison, who kind of guided us through this whole thing, is a member. And she was like, give me the number. So I gave her the number. She plugged in the number and found what they call donor siblings.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
So we have, right now, I think, 10 donor siblings.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And multiple ones that we don't know, because once you get on this national registry or you get on the sperm bank or the cryobank, once you have a live pregnancy, you report it back because then that becomes part of his statistics of this donor. But then the global registry is at your own will. You log on, you sign in the number, and it pulls up anyone who has logged his number. And it is crazy. Science, genetics, DNA is insane. And learning so much through IVF, like, it is insane. To even, like, I could go into, like, days of conversation about it.
Momcult, if you're thinking about what to cook for dinner this week and you just don't know what to do, look no further than Mr. Aaron's Goods. It's locally made in Nashville, Tennessee. You can get it delivered on Saturdays if you live in East Nashville. Tuesday through Friday, they're open 9 to 2 at TKO in East Nashville. And on Saturday, they're open from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. You can use code MOMCULT for 20% off your order online. That's Mr. M.R. Aaronsgoods.com. And give them a try. You'll love literally everything they have. So you had your son, or had you already decided to get pregnant when your daughter is adopted? Is that correct? And you had already decided to get pregnant? Like, what's the timeline with that?
So we had gone through multiple, what they call transfers prior to Lily. I had gone through 2 transfers. So the cycle of how IVF works is you choose the sperm. Okay, got the donor. That's locked in. We had to go through a medical center per my partner's job because we did have infertility insurance. But we had to go to Memphis. There was nowhere here in Nashville that we could go. So we had to choose Memphis, and you go through all of the hormones, all of the shots, everything to prepare your body for a retrieval. Women now are doing egg retrievals left and right, which I think is amazing to preserve, themselves if they want to make that choice and they're not sure if they want children. You go through everything to plump up your eggs. But they're called follicles in medical term. So you go through all of these injections and all of the hormones and birth control, all this stuff. You go in, get ultrasounds every 2 times a week prior of the transfer because they want to see the follicles grow. They have to get to a certain size before they're willing to go in and extract the follicles. But you have to go in and see how many follicles you have before you start all of this. And it could be 10, it could be 35. I was very fortunate. I had over 30 follicles. And when we did the retrieval, when I had enough that were at the right size, I had gotten 27 follicles, which is amazing for my age.
Not to brag.
Not to brag. But it's crazy because then they go through a process of, we wanted to make it as natural as possible for the fertilization. So then in the Petri dish, you take those follicles and they naturally fertilize for 7 days in the lab. So they call you every day to tell you, all right, we're down to 16. 16 made it to day 1. 3 made it. Full blastesis. You've got 3 on day 2. Day 3, you have 1 that's made it. Okay, now you have 4. Day 4, you have 2. That's 6. And then the last day, 6, I didn't have any. Day 7, I had 2 more. And they grade them, like a grade on a test.
Yeah.
The quality, the grade of them.
What does that mean?
It's all it is honestly how fast they fertilize.
Does it mean, because I've heard something specifically about Eric had his thyroid out, and I read something recently about quality of sperm after thyroid out, and I was like, I mentioned that to him, and he was like, does it mean like what is that?
Right, what
like
does quality mean?
Person? Like the result
motility, like sperm motility, like what is the quality of actually the sperm?
Efficacy of the sperm fertilizing the egg, but it doesn't really affect maybe the quality of the human?
No, it doesn't affect the quality of the human, but I think a lot of women, for instance, that registers if I only have a day 5 C minus in, I don't care what you say. It's like that performance. You see that and then immediately you're like,
I'm not doing good enough.
And I have a below average egg. And that fucks you up. This IVF fucks you up. And I'm sorry, I will say it a million times over and over and over again. I thought I was prepared. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And I say that lovingly, and I also say that with like full transparency. That's why I'm here to talk about it, to give people that space and that understanding it is hard physically, mentally, on your relationship, emotionally, every level. It is so hard on the gestational carrier and also their partner, or if you're deciding to do it alone. I know people that have done it alone, and I'm like, I have no idea. To give yourself a shot with a needle that is 4 inches long, and then the size and the gauge of the needle changes whatever medication you're doing in your belly and then in your butt, and it's intermuscular, so it has to go in so far. It is, and I have a very high pain tolerance, but this is like beyond anything I can explain. So
you're down to 2.
So I had 8 viable embryos that went full blastesis, which is a lot. And again, I was very, very, very fortunate to have that, because some people have 1 and 1 shot before they begin again. And that's the hardest part. The hardest part is getting yourself in that mental headspace and trying to understand what your body's going. You're basically speeding up your cycle. And if you're not prepared to understand what your physical body goes through, it takes a whole toll on your mental headspace. And it's a timing game. Everything is controlled. And it's not controlled by you. It's controlled by the tedious regimen of timing of everything. And then once we did the retrieval, we immediately did a transfer. Like, I was not willing to wait. Like, again, I thought I could control this. I was like, I'm ready to do it now. Everything looks good. I'm ready to do it now. So we did the transfer.
Did they put in all 8?
Hell no. There's a law now. There's a law now to where most doctors will only transfer 1.
Okay.
So we transferred 2 every time because we had so many. In my mind at that time, I was like, if we have twins, we'll be 2 and done.
Right.
Now I'm like, oh, no way.
Sounds like a terrible idea.
Terrible idea. Masochist. So we transferred 2 embryos, and I never had any problems getting pregnant. Like I would get pregnant immediately, and I don't know. And you go the ultrasounds, and you have to go in and get blood drawn. You do take the pregnancy test. You have to wait 9 days after the transfer, which is hell on earth. Like,
how many trips to Memphis is this, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, at least probably 6 to 10.
Gross.
And the really shitty part was they knew that we lived in Nashville. But they always schedule you because you go in first thing in the morning for blood work. So I had to be there some mornings at 7:30 in the morning. So I would leave here at 4:30 to get there on time.
Did at any point, or maybe multiple points, did you think, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to keep trying?
Not the first time. Like I was like tunnel vision.
Yeah.
This is all I could see. And it does. It consumes everything you do. It consumes everything. And I had no questions that I didn't want to do this. We did the transfer. I got pregnant. I had my first miscarriage at like 8 weeks, and I didn't know what to expect. I just started bleeding. I had a super sharp pain, and then I started bleeding. I was rushed to the emergency room, and I mean, we all know how the emergency room goes. I was there for hours, and they were like, well, I can't really say for sure. There is another embryo that's still there. However, it looks as if it's not sustainable. So you're going to have to self-induce a miscarriage because that's probably what's going to happen. So I waited it out a week, and then I went to my OB here in Nashville, and she gave me it's misoprostol, I think is what it's called. So that basically would self-induce a miscarriage, which that was in 2019. Right now, you couldn't get that.
Right.
So immediately after that, you have to wait 3 cycles. And I was like, okay, we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
So
did you kind of just push through that first? Yep. Like, we probably expected this. This is very common. Or was it, did you sit in it for a while?
Nope. I just totally blacked it out. Like, I'm really good at that. Just checking out and pushing it to the side. Because I was determined. I was like, I can control this. Because I have in my life, like if I want something, physical, job, relationship, whatever, I've been pretty adamant about that. I'm a little
Got
assertive.
A good track record.
A little assertive sometimes. So I was like, no, I'm ready to do it again. But I was not. I was not mentally ready to do it again. But you couldn't tell me. You cannot tell, and that's like I feel about any first-time parent when you're friends that have kids, and after you have kids, you're like, why the fuck didn't you tell me that?
And they're like, we couldn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're like, you wouldn't even have heard what I was saying. You would have been like, yeah, it's fine. It's totally fine, Lindsey. But no, I was not ready. I was not ready to do it again, but you could not tell me and if or what to do. I was like, I'm doing it. So we did it again. 2 more embryos, 3 cycles later, so 3 months later. Again, have to go through all the hormones to prepare your body. I was pregnant again. My HCG levels, which is the only hormone in your physical body that tells you you're pregnant, were kind of low. But I was still in that mindset that I was like, we got this. I'm good. And I was terrified. Like I was in a fight or flight, full like edge of a meltdown every day.
Did Danny know that you were not ready?
I don't think it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It was a total control thing for me. And I was still teaching hot yoga. I didn't take a break. Even when the doctors, because when you are going through IVF, you have to do, I totally skipped all this stuff. Like you have to do progesterone, estrogen shots every day. You also have to do vaginal suppositories and take oral medication every single day. And in a very prescribed timeline. I didn't slow down. Like I was teaching at multiple studios. I was teaching in the hot room. I was still practicing. Even if I couldn't practice, I would just lay in the room just to physically be there. And my temperature could not get over 100. And I still was not listening and not letting myself hear what I needed to do. I still felt like I'm controlling this. I would step out of the room, teach from a doorway, and I got pregnant. And then I miscarried again. Same scenario. They didn't understand why. It's still very much blurred to me. I mean, it's trauma that I know that there's still lingering there with that. I miscarried again. It was right after I taught a class. I remember I came home, and when you start spotting, I panicked. And Danny's like, it's okay. My partner's like, it's okay, you're fine. I'm like, it's not okay. This is not okay. I know something's wrong. And right after, like, I just passed a big, huge clot, and I was like, that was definitely a miscarriage. Went back to my doctor in Memphis, who we did not love. It was a male, and just treated us. We were the only same-sex couple that we ever saw in that office. ever. It was a very, very unpleasant experience there. So when I went in, I was like, I've had another miscarriage. He's like, yeah, I think it's your fibroid. I just don't really think that anything is going to be sustainable. So we need to do an emergency ultrasound and probably emergency D&C. And I was like, well, we haven't even done another ultrasound just to see if there's still another embryo. Went back to Nashville, did an ultrasound here in Nashville, and there's no heartbeat there. My HCG levels were increasing, though, still fast. They were up in the thousands, which that's usually like signs of twins or multiples. And they couldn't understand why my HCG levels kept increasing. And this was right before COVID hit. This was February.
Yeah, I was going to ask, where are we at now?
Now we're at, timeline.
2020.
So I did 2 transfers within a year and a half. Then COVID hit. And they're like, you have to do an emergency D&C. He goes, I'm leaving the country. You need to come in the next 3 days back to Memphis. And he's like, I think it's a molar pregnancy, which could then damage my uterine lining if it just started to implant, create scar tissue. I had already had a huge fibroid. But they did a D&C, and they did a sample of my uterine lining, also a sample of the embryo tissue, sent it off, and still don't know why. There was no reason. Medical, physically with me, everything was good. My hormone levels were good. My blood work was always good. My heart rate was great. They didn't know why. But then everything shut down like a week later. And I never got to go back for a checkup. So that was in February of 2020. I didn't go back for a checkup after my D&C till the end of May. And in that timeline, it was a really terrible space. It was COVID. Everything was closed. My partner still had to go to work, so I was home by myself all day, every day. I was doing telehealth, but then she tells me after our first telehealth visit, she's like, I don't want this to traumatize you, but I'm pregnant. And I was like, oh my God. Jesus, fucking help me.
It really does feel like when you're struggling with pregnancy, everyone else around you is getting pregnant.
My cousins were pregnant.
It feels very personal.
And I did. I was having breakdowns and like the grocery store line. Like I've never really dealt with depression. I've never suffered from depression. But I'm familiar with it, but I had never felt it
like the
myself.
Weight of it.
Like the grief, the hopelessness, the sadness, the uncontrollable anger and rage of like, why? I don't understand how, why? Everything's fine all the time, energy, love, like, but it doesn't matter. That stuff is just is. And that I was drinking a lot. I mean, I had no outlet. I had no hot yoga. Nobody was coming out of their houses. I was drinking a lot, and I started teaching some online stuff. That's when everybody was doing the Facebook Live classes and the Instagram classes, which that is the one thing that got me out of that really dark headspace. I had to focus my energy on that. And after Danny and I had talked through it, I was like, I don't know if I can do this again. This is where I was like...
This was the moment.
Yeah. And about April 2020, May 2020, before I went back for my checkup, I was like, I don't think I can do this again. Physically, I mean, because your body is just so swollen, and the shots, the medication, and the financial burden of it. I was like, I don't think I can physically do this anymore. So adoption was always on the table for us, but it was there. Still in the back of my mind, I was like, I'm still going to have a baby. I'm going to carry a physical child. But I just didn't know if that was what was going to happen. And Danny and I decided we changed our care providers. We were like, fuck this dude in Memphis. He was just arrogant and just a prick. And we changed our care provider to here in Nashville to, her name was Dr. Donna Sessions in Cool Springs. And it was a private Vanderbilt-based infertility office. It was not a fertility clinic. All females, super small office. You saw the same nurses, because that's one thing if you hear women talk about infertility stuff, it's like we never talk to the doctor. You always talk to the nurse. The nurse always calls you. You never get straight answers. They leave a voicemail, and nobody ever picks up the phone when you call back with questions. because they expect you to be a doctor. Like the things that you have to go through and all this medication that is sent to your house. And you're like, if I fuck this up, I'm fucking up a lot of shit.
You're responsible for
everything. Everything. And like changing the needles, pulling in the medication.
Yeah, that's intimidating.
It is wildly intimidating. And I don't deal well with stuff. Like I don't deal well with like directions and structure, like reading long documents. I can't do it. I just can't stay focused. My partner, I'm so grateful, can, but my partner had to do all of that. Cause I was like, I'm physically going through this, all of the dialogue of information that we have. I can't do it. I can't process it. So my partner did. We changed care providers and we felt a huge shift. And that's one thing I always try to tell women. I'm like, be your own best advocate for your healthcare. If you do not feel good in this space, and I don't mean threatened, but if you just feel like you're not getting the answers that you need, or they're not asking questions about you, and they're not saying, how do you feel about this? What does this look like for you? Step away. Like find something else. There will be someone else that is willing to take the time, the care, and the compassion to help you, because it can be really overwhelming. So we decided one last time. It was the first week of June in 2020. I was like, okay, I feel safe. I feel like I trust this woman. I trust her nurses. It's closer. Okay, I'm willing to literally put all my eggs in one basket. As cliche as that sounds. So after we had our first initial meeting with our new doctor, we get a phone call for Lily. And it's my friend. We know Lily's biological maternal grandparents. And we also knew Lily's biological mother and biological father. So we get a phone call, and it was a text. It wasn't even a phone call. And I had actually done the day before, I did a theta healing with my friend Jen. And I had done some shaman work as well too, because I needed to approach this differently. And I started following a traditional Chinese medicine regimen. I changed my life significantly. I stopped practicing in a heated room. I stopped teaching as much because obviously it was COVID, but I even backed out of doing the stuff online. I was getting acupuncture. I started incorporating some supplements to increase my blood circulation and blood flow. I saw my astrologist, and she was like, my astrologer, and she was like, it's your circulation and you need to start taking some blood building supplements. And I did. I was doing acupuncture almost every other week. I also was a vegetarian vegan for a long time, and I had to start drinking bone broth. And I truly and firmly believe in that process. It changed me physically, and also my body was getting the nutrients that it needed, because I was at such a rigorous point in my life where I wasn't sleeping. I was just pushing in yoga and everything that I could do. But at the tail end of COVID, I started to incorporate Chinese medicine and really like focusing on me, like focusing on my care and my health and my body. If I wanted to have a baby, I had to do these things. Then we got the phone call about Lily. And
what did the text say?
The text was basically a long drawn out text, and it was like, I know that you all might potentially try again, but is adoption still on the table? Lily's been taken from the state by her biological parents because they tested positive for meth. And I just remember reading that, and Danny was like, what's wrong? And I was like, it was a text sent to both of us. And I was like, did you check your text messages? And Danny read it, and we both were like, holy shit. I don't know. I was like, you need to respond back to this. I can't. I was like, I gotta go.
What's going through your mind?
I gotta go. I had my theta healing with my friend Jen, and we focused on wanting to have a family. And that was the one thing that I had really focused on. And I was like, I want a family. I want to have children. This is, I know, part of my path. I don't understand why it's not happening. And just Jen had to go in and remove a lot of the energetic blocks that I was holding on to. And the week prior to that with the shaman that I was working with, which I don't know if you've done any shaman work.
No, it's always sound fascinating to me. Like I want to at some point, but I haven't.
It's intense. I mean, it was intense for me because, she takes you through, the earth plane, and then you're down. Like, it's a visualization. and she basically, like, I went down through this water into the cave, and then we had spirit guides that guided us through, and she walked me through being able to have closure with the multiple miscarriages prior and letting that be okay. Mm-hmm. Because it's still really sad, and it's still a lot of sadness around that, but it's also like, I understand now on the opposite end of the spectrum, like, those souls were never meant to be mine. They weren't ours. They weren't seeking me. And I wouldn't be able to sit here and say that to you straight faced 4 years ago.
Right.
But I've definitely felt closure after the shaman work, and then the theta healing with Jen. And I'm not kidding you, 2 days later, we got the call about Lily. And it was the day after we had met with a new doctor sessions with our new doctor. And I was like, okay, I've been taking care of myself. And when I take care of myself, my energy shifts, and my energy shifts to the things that I want and how I choose to manifest the things that I want. And I'm opening myself up to these things. Before, I was closed off and in control of it and trying to physically control it. But I couldn't. Like, I had to go through all of those things to allow myself to be open enough to receive. And to
receive your family, however that looks like.
Exactly. And we met Lily within 2 days after that text. And after you've gone through years of infertility, you hold a 3-month-old baby. It's, you feel like, oh my God, this is everything that I ever could have possibly imagined. You hold a physical baby when that's all you've wanted. And she was really special. We knew she was special. We became immediately, Danny and I were like, oh, Jesus, what did we get ourselves into? What are we doing? She was out in Brentwood. We visited her every day. And for 3 weeks straight, every day. I was there for like 2 or 3 hours. At the end of the month of June of 2020, I was like, do you think they would let us like take her to our house and just take her and like see what this feels like? Because we're just sitting at the great grandmother's house. I'm like, we're just sitting here. Mm-hmm. And this is easy when it's just sitting here. And Child Family Services were there and checked in like every week. And the biological parents were floating in and out. And we asked the great grandmother if she would ask this caseworker. And she did. And when we came there the third week, we were like, so are we okay to maybe take her to playground and take her somewhere? Mm-hmm. And they were like, actually, she can spend the night at your house. She can spend the night at your house every weekend. And we were like, wait, what?
I'm sorry, what?
I mean, that's Danny and I both, I remember it like it was yesterday. We froze. And I was like, and I didn't want to say no.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if I said no, then they're like, well, they don't want
her.
Right,
what does that mean? Yeah, or they're going to take it more seriously.
And you are desperate.
Yeah.
Like, you are functioning from a space, I don't want to say of despair, but it's a space of like, this is what I want. It's tangible now. I can physically see it,
right,
taste
and
it.
you don't want to fuck it up.
Yes.
I can't fuck it up.
So I was like, okay. And Danny and I were both like, we didn't even have a car seat.
Yeah, I was going to ask, did you even...
No. We didn't have a car seat.
And I'm sorry, are you going through IVF at the same time? Or are you like on the hormones? You're doing the shots. You've got all the progesterone and all the things.
We're going through all this like prep again to do a transfer.
Mm-hmm. And is the adoption stuff had you guys done anything legally on the adoption side? Or is this just friend of a friend?
Wow. We weren't even foster parents.
Right.
Like in the state of Tennessee, that's a whole nother day. Mm-hmm. In the state of Tennessee, to receive any kind of financial help, you have to be legal foster parents. Mm-hmm. And we were not.
Right.
We thought about it, but we were not. So we took her home, and we took home the car seat that the biological parents had left there, and it was not the best. We get home, we had nothing, zero, nothing, not even a diaper. So Danny had to go to Target and get a crib, a car seat, a bouncy seat, diapers, like the whole thing, bare minimum.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So we started then co-fostering. We co-fostered for 6 months. We co-fostered until I was to do my transfer. We met Lily in June. We started co-fostering her at the end of June. So we were July, August. I'm still on hormones, birth control, all this stuff to do the transfer. We did a transfer on September 29th of 2020. 9 days later, we go back in, do the blood work, and I'm pregnant. And I was like, okay. But it also, it helped me not to go into that dark space again because I physically had a baby that was, my mind was on this. And
is there fear that at any point, because you're not in the system, because this is kind of a pieced together potential adoption situation, is there fear this whole time that the rug's going to get pulled out at any moment?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We had to go to court multiple times before the year end of 2020 because the parents, the most important part to remember in any person that's looking into adoption, the number one thing that the state is wanting is to reunite the parents with the child.
Right. So if they change their mind or any in the slightest, it's a big deal.
Yep. And the state will do anything because, again, it comes down to money in politics. The state gets money if kids are reunited with their families. The reunification is the number one goal. So state workers helped the biological parents do everything. Their AA meetings, their follow-up meetings, trying to get them a job. This was when all the unemployment was happening. State workers helped the biological father get that $12,000 in unemployment. And we were like, we are paying out of our pockets, sir. We don't have any financial support. But yes, absolutely, that is the biggest fear. This is 2020, we didn't even get to legally adopt Lily until 2022, after my son was born. So
you've got 2 potential children.
Yep. I remember I was talking to my best friend and I said, the only way I know how to explain it is like you're in love with someone who can't love you back. It's like you pour everything into this child, which it's not their responsibility, but it's like you love something so hard that you don't know if that love is in return. And that was it's still really hard. I mean, it's been over a year and a half of adopting Lily, and that was the hardest thing with her, was because it's like you're putting so much into it, but you're still in fear that it could be taken from you in 2 seconds.
If you really don't know what to do in terms of negative consequences, one suggestion I have would be to visit Camel Express Car Wash, where the vacuums are super loud, and for most kids it really freaks them out. So just clean your car and freak your kid out with the loud vacuum. I'm just kidding. Don't do that, but do text Momcult, code Momcult, to 30400 for a free $25 best wash. You can use it at any location in and around Nashville at Camel Express. We have 3 locations in Nashville and 1 in Hendersonville, 1 in Mount Juliet for your visiting pleasure. No, that's convenience. Check it out. Free mat cleaners, free vacuums, free detail air wands that you blow out the stuff that gets in your cup holders. That's pretty cool. Also free. Check it out. You get a free best wash. That's the best one, obviously. $25 value. So check that out. And yeah, really don't freak your kids out with the vacuum.
We were pregnant and we became her legal guardians in December of 2020. We had to go to court. We're still her legal guardians, but we are not legally adopted her. That means that she lived with us. We didn't have to go back and forth. And I can't remember, the biological mother committed suicide.
Jeez.
It was in 21, I think, after my son was born. I think it was in November of 21, because it was before we got her legally adopted. So yeah, I got pregnant. I was pregnant with Poe. We had Lily full-time. I was not working because I couldn't. And I also, after we did the transfer and I found out I was pregnant and Lily was still an infant, I couldn't pick her up for 12 weeks, which is a very extended amount of time. Most women don't have to wait that long. But I was a high-risk pregnancy and a geriatric pregnancy.
Love that.
Just add a little light sprinkle in there.
Just trying to have my first baby.
Right. Yep. Sorry. Add a little humor in the darkness of the... Yeah. I was like, when I first heard that term, I was like, what?
I'm sorry, what?
Rude. I mean, I just literally, I think my jaw probably dropped to the floor. They're like, you're considered a geriatric gestational carrier. And
They
I was
can't
like,
say a nicer thing.
No.
Like, honestly, I know it's so it's horrible.
Let's come up. Can we get a new term?
Yeah.
Don't people make up new terms all the time?
all the time. I mean, and it's in the medical, there's got to be something better than that. But that ought to makes you feel like a piece of shit. You're like, cool. You know, what?
It's just another way to keep us women down. Feeling like we're weak.
Just that self-talk right down the drain.
It's over after 35.
35. What is there to do? What's left? Shrivel up.
I've peaked.
No, you're old now. Like it's
True.
like,
Well,
today when things are
it's crazy.
starting.
Like that kind of stuff's crazy to me because I still feel like I'm 35.
Yeah,
But
it's crazy.
that's not the case. But I had a good pregnancy with Poe. Honestly, I was active. I went back to practicing and teaching online. We still had to have our caseworker came to our house every month to check on Lily. I had my son in June of 21. My delivery was not what I wanted by any means, but he got here safe and I was healthy and I was okay. I had to have an emergency C-section. But I had a huge fibroid. They didn't know how big my fibroid was until I had to have the C-section because it was located on the back left side of my ovary. And in an ultrasound, you couldn't see it because my hips blocked it and my sacrum hit it. So he kept flipping. And he was flipping, and they didn't know why. He was transverse breech, so we scheduled a C-section. And I said, if he's head down when I get there, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Because I knew this was the only time I was going to carry. And we were at Vanderbilt, which I'm not sure if you've delivered at Vanderbilt.
Only I did Baby and Co., which is like
That was my first choice.
part.
But I couldn't because I was high risk. I was geriatric, and it was IVF. So IVF even more. There's high risk there. So and probably because it was same sex. I don't know. But I delivered at Vanderbilt. But this was when Vanderbilt was under construction. In the labor and delivery. So they put us in a closet. I'm not kidding. It was a room that they didn't use anymore. But since I was
Geriatric.
And I needed a wheelchair.
Geriatrics in the old janitor
I
closet.
needed a wheelchair and some oxygen.
They're so small. The elderly are so small.
You say you just fit all in this little room.
They just really wanted me to eat all this oatmeal.
I mean, but they did not have enough rooms because the baby boom of COVID, they didn't have enough rooms. So
I was a part of that.
Same, but I was not priority. So I literally went into like the waiting room of the old part of the labor and delivery they didn't use anymore. And we sat in there for like 6 hours until I finally told my doula and my partner, I was like, find out what's going on right now. I'm done with this shit. Find out what's happening. So they're like, oh, we have a room available like 3 hours later. So I was in labor for 36 hours. I tried to do everything natural, nothing. Well, 2.5 days. So I hadn't eaten, hadn't slept because I was scheduled C-section. And I was like, I'm done. I just want to meet him. I'm done. So within that, like you say that, because that's what they want. That is what they want to hear from you. They're like, oh, yeah, you're done? Okay, great.
Right.
And it's like,
you're ready to go home? Great, so are we.
Within 45 minutes, I was prepped, anesthesia, epidural, on the table. And I also did not know that they strap your arms down.
I knew that.
I did not. And I have a tendency when I take medication, it either affects me very little or a lot. And I started to like shake and like have convulsions on the table.
The epidural did that to me too with my first. I got like crazy
and
shaky.
I did. And I looked at Danny and then I looked at the anesthesiologist and she was so nice and such just like beautiful woman. I was like, what's happening to me?
Do you see is my body moving the way it feels?
Now I feel geriatric. What's happening?
Oh, this is geriatric.
Yes. And she was like, it's the medication.
Yeah.
And my lips turned purple because I don't have great circulation. And she's like, you're going to be fine. She's like, give me your music. And I put on my playlist. Even in the medical room, they let me have my phone in there.
They wouldn't let you have it in the closet.
No.
But they let me have it in
Right. They didn't put anybody in the closet. Like, fend for yourself. So, yeah, it was an emergency C-section. And he was there fast. Like, that's what they want. And that's, it's easy peasy on the books, in and out. But I was scared. I was so fucking scared. I'd never been in a hospital until I went. I've never had a surgery until I went into the retrieval. I've never been in the hospital. I was also terrified that it would not allow me to breastfeed. That was my biggest fear. But after he was there, it was like all of the pain, all of the sadness, all of the grief and the sorrow, it was just gone.
Yeah.
But nobody also prepared me for them when you bring them home.
Right, exactly. And,
like,
then
now the real
postpartum
shit
takes
starts.
the place.
Like, you thought the pregnancy and getting pregnant was hard?
Yeah, what do you tell people now that you're on the other side of it, the people that are in your position of going, this is all I want, this is all I can think about, this is the dream, this is the fantasy?
That's a really open-ended question. I feel like now, knowing what I do know now and have gone through the process, I try to think about myself in the situation. This is where I do have a little bit of a filter when it comes to like the truth. Telling them, yes, it's going to be hard, and giving them the information that they need, that they might need.
Right.
But also letting people know, whether it is trying to get pregnant naturally or IVF or infertility stuff, is like, if you are on the fence about having children, like you're like, maybe, I don't know, I would not do it. Like, straight up. Like, and some people will come for me for that. But if you are on the fence about it, if you are thinking about getting pregnant and you're just like, I don't know, I don't think so, maybe, I'm not sure, don't do it. Don't feel pressured. Don't feel like your family tells you have to, society tells you have to, because this shit is fucking hard. And I'm an older parent. I'm 44, and I have toddlers. I have friends that have 25 to 30-year-old children.
Right.
And my partner is 10 years younger than I am, but
Hot.
Geriatrics, really.
Okay.
They're getting all the perks.
Right. It's like, find one. But that parenting is no joke. Like, that's what I was not ready for. Like, reading the list of questions and thought about this is like, what do you struggle with? Like, some days I'm like, what the fuck did I do? And I don't mean that. And I know some people can hear that and be like, this is all I've ever wanted, is to have a family. I have been there.
Right.
I have been on my hands and knees in a sobbing puddle, not even be able to move on the floor.
Well, and I think the space we're trying to create is one where all those feelings are allowed. Like, being a mom is so complicated that from the moment you even think about, do I want a baby?
And to also remember, because we are in such a voyeuristic time and space and culture, remember the things that you see and the things that you read on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Those things are not real. Those moms that look put together, makeup, hair, houses cleaned, we're eating organic food every single day, we're walking in our baby stroller and everything looks perfect, that is not real. And I have to tell myself that shit all the time too, because we're conditioned, unfortunately, in this space to see that. What we see is what's like projected in like a mirror back at us. And I'm like, and those days where I'm like, my house isn't clean, the kids are eating chicken nuggets and they're eating French fries off the floor, that's okay. It is okay. Your kids are loved. They have a safe bed to sleep in, food in your fridge, a blanket that they love, like those things, that is okay. And you can sit at the end of the night, even though you're exhausted, you maybe ate, you maybe didn't eat, you have a glass of wine, like that is okay. It's okay to also feel sad or also feel just completely wiped out. Like you said, Joy, I love my children. I would never, ever, ever take anything back. I don't regret it. But there are some days it's just like, I made it. I made it through this day, because there's a point where I was like, I'm not sure if we're all going to make it. Somebody's going to lose a limb. I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't know. But it is something that I constantly think about now. Like when you ask me how I am this week, I'm like, I'm okay. But then I have to decipher myself in there somewhere. That's where I have to do the daily work. Like, who am I? Where am I?
Yeah, separate yourself from it.
Because I don't.
Really hard.
I'm finally coming out of that like black area, that black gray space of the first 2 years.
Yeah.
And my kids are finally to the age where they can coexist together and play. My son's starting to talk too, so that's a big one for my daughter. She feels like now she's the boss.
Right.
So, I just feel like I'm finally coming up for air and starting to establish my yoga practice again, because I was just going to yoga just to get out of the house.
Right, yeah.
For a minute there.
Yeah.
Even teaching. I was like, I gotta go.
I
gotta go.
Yeah.
But now starting to find a little bit more of me, like, because that's one thing I really want. I want to empower myself and others to know that, like, I'm not just a mother. Like, I'm a lot of things. A mother is one of the most important and the most important job. But I am so multifaceted and multi-layered, more than just that as a mother.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning of motherhood, it almost feels like you're not really given a choice for that to be your identity for a couple of years.
Yes.
And I do think that there's something beautiful in that. I think those early years can be beautiful in how hands-on and how hard it is and how in it you have to be and the amount of surrender that you have to allow yourself to just go through. But it's nice knowing, like, I know with the first kid, the hardest part for me was not knowing when the end of this tunnel is. Like, when am I going to get to the other side where I can start to think about myself again? And like, who am I? What do I like to do? What do I do with my free time?
Without thinking about, I got to pick my kids up. Oh, did they eat? Oh, do we have food in this? Do we have food in the fridge? That's very true. Like, I'm just now getting this through this summer. Like, that was a promise I made to myself, was like, okay, one night a week, I'm going to go have dinner or a drink with my friends. Like, it doesn't have to be that long. It can be 2 hours. It can be an hour. But I finally felt like I had a little bit more freedom to do that. Mm-hmm. I did. I mean, and that's first 2 years too, with everybody being sick and COVID. That was just a whole different experience in itself.
Yeah, extra isolating.
Mm-hmm.
How did you and Danny navigate those couple years, like, together?
My partner had to work. I was very fortunate. My partner had a 12-week leave, as if they were the gestational carrier. Danny got to have a 12-week, which was nice. It was really nice, because I don't know what I would have done, thinking back on it now. But the first year with Poe and Lily, Danny worked full-time. So a lot of it, I was in it by myself. Mm-hmm. And I think about it now.
Just building up resentment.
Just like, maybe a little bit. And it was hard. It was really hard. And I don't think that people understand that. Like, I think you do get lost in the shuffle, and you're just on this, like, I got to take care of this infant child, and I have a toddler. How am I finding this balance? I mean, we definitely have had a rocky path. Like, I don't think that's.
I think kids just, even if it wasn't rocky before, kids will make it very rocky.
Absolutely. And there's somewhere you got to find a rhythm, or you got to find a pattern, or you got to find a routine. And I think every age it changes.
Yep.
What your routine looks like.
Yeah, you have to be open to constantly evolving and letting what works shift, because it's going to shift depending on what the kid needs. Yeah. I
was like, look, I have to teach. I picked up this class. I'm going to do this interview and this podcast. Like, you're working from home. The kids are going to stay here. I'll be back at this. It's like tag team, I feel like. Mm-hmm. And my mom gave me like the worst advice ever when she was like, those first 5 years are the hardest, but the most amazing years that you'll ever have with your kids. Okay.
Yeah.
She was getting on a plane. I was like, don't leave. Please don't leave.
Live here.
Help me. You don't want to live far away from your two of your grandkids, right? Then she did. I got real sick, though. We all got COVID at the same time.
Fun.
Mm-hmm. And I had mastitis multiple times. So
oh, God.
And I did not know about mastitis either. So I tried to tell... I teach prenatal yoga, so I try to tell my mamas and give them different exercises to do, because I'm like, listen to me. Mm-hmm. You don't ever, I would never wish this on anyone ever in this entire existence of this planet. These are the things that you need to do, because I did not know. Mm-hmm. I did not know. That is something I would tell a parent.
Yeah.
I'd be like, look, if you ever feel this hardness in any side of your boob,
start doing X, Y, and
or you
Z.
feel something weird in your armpit, do not wait. And I mean, I'm not for all the antibiotics, but I'm also like, you don't wait. It's horrible.
You said something at yoga, and I was wondering if do you know what I'm talking, you know the thing? Did you read that off your phone?
I did today when at the beginning of class when I was talking about.
Do you have that? If you don't, then it's going to fall flat.
No.
Oh, we didn't prepare for this.
No. I do have it. And that's one thing for me is like one of my, I find inspiration in like the smallest of little things, but I also, in yoga, I feel like if I'm reading something or I come across something, I'm like, this is really, I think people will connect with this and some people need to hear this. I try to read the energy of the room and like where I'm at, what I'm doing. But this was something I came across on Instagram. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
It says, I hope you never forget how many beautiful things there are about you. How your smile makes others smile. How your energy warms up a room and hearts. How you make others feel safe and heard. You are a light in this world. There will be some hard times, yes, but I hope you remember this through it all. The world needs you so, so much. It's just,
beautiful.
Daily reminders, we need those little daily reminders, whether it's the people in your life or whether it's a flower or the breeze or your neighbor.
Yeah.
Or coffee.
Yeah, which, on the flip side of the early years, what I feel like the early years of motherhood do to you is those little things do become vastly, vastly important. Mm-hmm. And I think that's also hard for our brains to adjust as moms to go, we might not think the little things will help because our whoever we used to be, because we are not the same person, doesn't register that it's going to matter. Mm. I mean, my husband's second child was different for him too. He was a different dad. And there have been moments, the second kid, early years, of him just coming up to me and going, go get dressed. Your friend's coming to pick you up and you guys are going to go get a drink, get a snack, whatever. Like making those decisions for me, because the second time he knew when you're in enough of a hole, you can't, I don't want to text. I don't even want to go through my phone to figure out who I could text at the last minute. Are they even going to be available? I don't want to go put on a bra. What's the point?
I don't want to brush my teeth.
What's the point? What's the point? I'm just going to be doing all this again tomorrow and the next day and the next day and forever and ever. And the little tiniest self-care things, even if it's just having a cup of tea in the morning in a cute teacup, whatever.
I know. Girl, you're speaking my truth.
They matter.
And I think it's important too for us to like, even if you're not going anywhere. For instance, today I'm actually dressed in I say real clothes.
Right. They look real to me.
They're real.
Yeah.
They're real.
Yes.
But normally I am in either sweatpants or a t-shirt or yoga clothes. And sometimes I have to, for my headspace,
put on a nice,
I have to put on jeans.
Yeah, something.
Jeans and a shirt. And my partner will be like, why are you so dressed up? I'm like,
what's going on?
Eric says that a lot. I'm like,
We've really lowered the bar.
How are we doing? I'm on jeans. Cool. How are we doing?
Where are you going? Are you going out?
Yeah.
What? No, I just need to get dressed. I'm actually pouring myself a
bath time in 5 minutes. What are you talking about?
Right. And it isn't. Those things are important. And I feel like also maybe you drink, maybe you don't drink. Since we don't go out, we definitely make nice cocktails for ourselves at home.
That makes me so
I mean,
happy.
we drink wine a lot, but like to have a margarita that you make at home or have, an old fashioned, something that makes you still feel like you're existing in life.
A bigger space. Yeah.
I mean, we can't go out and do it, so we might as well bring it to the home and do it, drinking. Some nights it's with frozen pizza, but, and I'm not like a food and wellness coach. Like I had a whole expectation around like Lily, I made her food every day. I blended that food and I made it from scratch.
No, I never did that once. I had a book about it and I dreamed about using that book, but I never did.
Yeah, I did it with Lily, but then poor Poe, I was like, here you go, buddy. Here you go. Eat that avocado just right off and like peel the skin. Here we go. And it's so true. It was, I couldn't, I had to pick and choose my battles. And that was a hard expectation for me too, because I had seen all these moms do all these really great things. And I was like, I'm failing.
I know, I do.
Not good enough.
I feel like social media it's definitely a place where there's people are getting more honest and finding comedy and humor in what of a shit show it all is.
Because that's the reality of it. Like, we can't laugh at ourselves and like be like, that's me. This is me.
If people want to reach out to you, what would be the best way to do that?
You can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram. My handle is so silly because a friend of mine made it. It's Child of the Goddess Take 2. That's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother show in itself. Because I was against social media for years, and I happened to be out one night. My friend made me an account. So. You can also reach out to me. My email is just L Rhodes, my last name, RHODES 30@gmail. And if you reach out to me, either one of those, I'll just give you my phone number. I don't have a website anymore, but I am so grateful that you ladies asked me to come and chit chat, and
we're grateful.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
For your vulnerability. And we'd had Tyler, who had done in vitro, and then we've also had another same-sex couple on, but with the person who didn't carry the baby. And so it's been really cool to get some pieces of some other topics that have been discussed, but on a different perspective.
For sure. And that is very important.
Do we want to do like 3 minutes of anything pop culture? Because I have to leave soon.
Yeah, and I feel like we were over. Do you need to go?
No, I'm good. My kids are sleeping.
Well, you said you like gangster movies.
I do. I'm not. So I can't keep my eyes open past like 9 o'clock.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I'm not into like any salacious, like cool reality television. However,
it's not cool, but
a chronic repeat offender with mafia movies. Like my favorite, Scarface, Goodfellas, Donnie Brasco, things like that. Those are the things I go to sleep to.
Yeah.
My partner's always like, again, Lindsay. I'm like, it's like a comfort thing.
Mine always picks like the most giant action scene movies to fall asleep. I'm like, this is insane.
Yeah.
I do like, I don't love like an action movie, but I do like a mafia movie. Like I love anything about just the way that, like anything dynastic, really. So it can be like The Crown or like Scarface. It's like the same thing to me.
Yeah, because it's like, this amazing rise to this peak of cool stardom-ish in their culture to the crash and the fall of the empire.
Yeah.
Those are my favorites. Like, I remember playing it for Lily when we were just like fostering Lily. Danny's like, "You're Scarface, Lindsay?" And she's a baby. I'm like, she doesn't know. I'm just getting her prepared. It's fine.
Yeah. I always feel like I was really traumatized by my siblings because they let me watch, specifically the movie Trolls. Have you ever seen that?
Oh,
It's really old. It's really dumb. But
like
honestly, if you
Gremlin
see it as like a 3-year-old, then you're like really scared. Like I have all these nightmares. And I keep showing Parker like things that are really too scary. And Eric's like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I think it's
part of us. I think part of us kind of can't help it. I think we like want them to be ready for things.
Yes.
Probably before they are.
Weird.
Yep. My kids.
We just get excited.
We
It's a
are
cycle.
definitely lovers of Halloween. And my kids have no fear of like monsters or the Halloween store. It's like, again, I want you to be ready for this, but are you really at 2.5?
Right.
I don't know, but we still took them.
Yeah, we took Penny to the like Spirit Halloween store a couple days ago. She gets this like fight or flight look where she's like 50% terrified but 50% excited. You can't. She's like really trying to find out how she feels about it.
I think it's when the animatronics like they move. Like if they're not moving and they're just going, rah, but when they move, it's a whole nother like
Sensory
Yes.
We had to go back yesterday, so she was fine. Way more entertained by all of it the first trip, and then we went back yesterday, and she was like way more scared the second time. And both Jared and I were like, "What's happening?" She
had time
more
to process
aware.
it.
Yeah, more time to process.
I've been here before. I didn't like it.
I thought about this last night.
Yeah. Truth.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thank you, Lindsay.
You can follow us at Momcult Podcast, I think.
Yeah, I think we know it now. Yeah.
Oh, it is? Okay, great.
Or themomcult.com.
Yep.
Yes.
Listen at themomcult.com. You can click on the things there. And thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.